love to just share some of my experiences with you guys like this all the time. And maybe share periods of silence and periods of some of my more deep and profound thoughts as the muses come to me. But, so to say. But to make that a profitable use of my time, because I still have to think of my time as something that I need to take carefully. I can't just be all the time, because I have bills to pay and things. If you guys could simply subscribe, that would be amazing, y'all, okay? Let me tell you something, sweetie. That would be amazing. It really would, because I would love to practice my pedagogy, to practice my meditations, to practice just things like this. If you want to know what I really would like this channel to be, is just me showing you a window into my life, which would include going through the forests, going through the cities, going hiking when the internet is able, or maybe taking my phone and a charger with me to re-upload later. And of course, reading books of various age levels, spreading the love of reading and of imagination and of exploration in a variety of ways. And I would love to make that channel dedicated to things like forest exploration and driving places and cities and farms and maybe historical sites and landmarks and museums, including outdoor barn museums, and reading books to you guys and spending times in silence and showing you guys maybe me cleaning around the house, all kinds of things. But really, it has, in order to get to that space where I can do this kind of thing regularly, I need more subscribers and I need more view time so that I can utilize more time to doing the things that I love and sharing that love with you guys. And I know nobody likes to hear that, but realistically, as a teacher, I teach in the mornings, do retail in the afternoons, and I don't even always have time to pay my bills on time. So simply, allowing for me to monetize this, even in a small way, would give me the opportunity and the excuse to share my love for life with you guys through that small window that you can see with me through. That bird has something. That might be, look at that bird. I don't know what that bird had. It might have looked like it was a snake. I don't know if you guys saw it in the camera. That bird had something in his or her beak. I have a feel. Oh, there's the horses. I have a feeling it was a snake based on the way it looked. Very interesting. Oh, how you doing, guys? Hold on. Put my hazards on. I don't see anybody coming behind me. For a moment. John, how you doing? Cleese, how you doing? No one behind me. John. What subjects? Hazards off. It depends. So I'm certified in fine art, pre-K to high school. I was a preschool teacher for a while. As a student teacher, I taught mostly at the elementary level with a good bit of middle school and one high school, where I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I was involving myself with, I think it was one student in particular who needed additional help, like some sort of IEP, I assume. That was years back. But right now, I started subbing, so I was specifically asked to teach music, which is not something I normally teach, but I love it. And with that age group, elementary school, it's different. And I do have, I can do a little bit of piano. I have some history, like making digital music. Like I can definitely get into the groove. I'm not someone you want to necessarily be teaching it every day without additional training, but it's definitely something I can sub for. And I'm hoping to take the Praxis 2 again and get certified in elementary education. Most of my experience is in elementary ed, and it just works so much better for my schedule since I'm doing 2 jobs. It definitely has its difficulties, but it can also be incredibly rewarding. It's a beautiful kind of chaos, You learn to shift between disciplinarian mode and fellow human mode. And you have to make that shift quickly, because even after they get to know you, and even if you're a regular teacher, not just subbing, they can be a lot to handle. But that's kind of the name of the game. You don't become a teacher and expect it all to be easy, at least not if you're teaching in the United States of America. You don't expect that. You know what to expect, and yeah, I'm here for it. I'm here for the chaos, the struggle, all of it. A lot of people think that I had a bad day, I had a good day. I don't really see it like that. I see every day as a good day. Some days might be more trying on your body, more trying on your mind, sure. But even when things that are tragic happen, the truth is even those tragedies can be transmuted into something good if you have the right kind of internal ability to understand that it's not all gloom and doom, that there is a way to understand a different way and utilize even the most traumatic experiences to our benefit. And of course, I give the Almighty credit. It's not necessarily me doing that, but if you find yourself in that position where that is able to occur, it's not like, oh, my day was so horrible. Sure, my day was trying. My day was, maybe stressful or trying. I need someone to empathize with me right now. Sure, I totally agree with that. But there are some people who just, first of all, they never seem to seek out other people to be like, hey, I get where you're coming from. I see the struggle you're going through. Number one, that's pivotal for us. And number two, a lot of people never really think of how am I going to change my perspective on this experience? What am I going to do differently next time? And even if I can't do anything differently to benefit the situation, how do I perceive of this in a light that is beneficial to me and to others, and that doesn't it's not it becomes something positive. And there are some traumatic events in life where that's difficult, but it's never impossible. And knowing that it's never impossible, a lot of people think that experience could never be something that I could use for something good. And hold on a second, we got some people doing something here. But yeah, a lot of people think that experience could never be something that I could ever perceive of or use in a positive light, but that's just not true. And there are experiences where it might take you decades to get there. Sure, I'm not denying that, I've been through some pretty trying and difficult situations myself. However, there is a way. A true gladiator. I like that. I like that. I think, yeah. It's true. It's true. Like, it is not easy teaching American elementary, for sure. I think it's rewarding, and I think, if we don't have people going into this, and there are a lot of teachers, I know a lot of teachers myself, obviously, there are a lot of people who go into this, with, and who continue in the mindset of, whatever happens, we have to try make an effort to benefit these young human beings who are going to be the next generation, and we have to do our best with what tools what few tools we have to put them in a place where they can hopefully prosper in the future. It's not one of those, like, that's a difficult place to be, because especially if you don't think you have enough resources, and most of us don't. Especially when you have students who have obviously gone through trauma based on, you can see it in their behaviors. Like, it's seldom that you see like true trauma. I think I've only seen that with one or two students, more recently. But like, there are students you can tell have been through some stuff. You don't know what, but something happened, and you're kind of, you obviously you observe to see, hey, what might be going on, but there's only so much that you possibly do. And especially if it was like the death of a parent or something, how do you go about that? Like, you don't know. First of all, you don't know what the trauma is. You just see the aftermath, the signs of it. And second of all, if you do know what the trauma is, especially if it's like the death of a loved one, how do you address that? Other than, just being there. But sometimes being there is part of the issue, because the kids who've been through the most trauma will be the ones who will act out very, very severely, and it's difficult, and it challenges the entire dynamic of the class. One student can hold back 20 students from learning, and it's often rooted in trauma or something akin to that. And how do you don't want to take away your presence, because that might be all that kid has. Buddy, I'm at the stop sign, you're good. That might be all you have, that might be all they have is your presence. But it can hold back an entire classroom, and it's like, how do you deal with that situation? And I think if we knew the answer to that question, we wouldn't still be facing that problem, decades and decades and decades, since education began, So, modern education and pedagogy has been around for quite a while, and even more contemporary methods and ideas. Nothing has seemed to address that issue, and I don't think that we're going to solve that issue anytime soon, unfortunately. We're all hoping somebody figures something out, but again, if we had figured that out, we wouldn't have a problem here. The problem wouldn't persist if we had a solution, right? Or at least one that we could apply with the resources that we have, and school resources tend to be limited. So what do? We do our best. And, realistically, that's all anybody can ask for, right? Weak people, well, I don't think that's necessarily good time. Oh, hold on. Tough times make strong people. Yeah, well, let's see. A true bloody. The sweet is never as sweet without the sour. That's a good point. If I didn't have my own trials in my life, the sweet stuff in life wouldn't be as satisfying. Although I think the memory of the bad times, if I were only to have sweet times in the future, I think I might have had enough personal trauma to be okay with just having the sweet. But I don't know. It kind of reminds me of Khalil Gibran pointing out that the flute that plays such beautiful music was carved with a sharp knife, right? So there definitely is this kind of seeming benefit to the oscillation. Although I think a lot of us could do with less punishment from life, but one might say. But no, I definitely do think that even a little bit of what many people would call can benefit us. And of course, those experiences in the past where we've had the greatest traumas, I think they can stand as a way for us, especially if we remember them, even though that's sometimes hard at first with, more severe trauma. But if we keep that in our psyche somewhere, I think the sweet times, even if we don't have hard times anymore eventually, I think the times, even if they're consistent, can continue to be sweet in a way that other people won't appreciate. Tough times make strong people, sure. The level of like I've had some pretty tough times basically my entire life, and I've a lot of like when I talk about people, the things that I've done, the things that I'm doing, people are like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. That's what I hear a lot. I couldn't do that. I don't like hearing that. It's like, first of all, you could do it, but of course, part of me wonders, well, maybe if they have not, had to face the kind of challenges I've had to face, maybe they literally can't. Maybe they're just not. Maybe they haven't had to exercise certain parts of their bodies and minds. Well, primarily the mind, to get to a point where they can actually do that, where they actually have that level of determination. Might not have been tried hard enough to be able to get to a part where they could actually contribute in a way that is, it's possible. I don't know if that's true. Anyway, um, strong people make good times breed weak people breed bad times. Yes, it does seem to go full circle, and it's I think that we can have a kind of controlled growth, right? Where we can allow, not for trauma, but we can still allow for pain and suffering within controlled environments, right? That I think is the solution to end the cycle, is to allow people to grow up with certain experiences that, if left outside of the supervision of someone more experienced, would become traumatic, but within a controlled environment where they know that they are ultimately safe and protected, having people allowed to go through certain levels of pain and suffering within a controlled environment so that they still become strong, but don't have to face certain traumatic events that can cripple a person, right? So controlled pain, controlled suffering, without necessarily being as severe as it would, without the controlled environment, or if it is, having that level of safety and security. I think a big part of the problem, realistically, in the world today and in the world of the past, oftentimes, is that most people, it seems, at least in the United States right now, don't have a controlled environment where they feel safe, secured, and protected, where they can experience things like even the experience of not being protected, being safe. But having, a controlled environment, there's still a safety net of sorts to allow them to grow possibility of severe trauma. And I think that's how you build someone who is both at least moderately strong, and keeping people from being weak, but also keeping people from a level of trauma that can haunt a person's lives. That, I think, is how we solve the issue. But in order to accomplish something like that, we need communities that really care on a deep level and put a lot more time and effort than we currently see, and put a lot more in terms of resources and in terms of care. And that's, I think, there's so much that we could do potentially with this kind of model. And it's one that I've considered for a while, but it's just the resources just aren't there for the average person. Especially, economy has gotten worse. Even the middle class is struggling just to get by. So if you're in poverty, or if you're in the lower middle class, or even the upper middle class, you might never be able to have access to these kinds of things. So, is it possible in the future? Sure. Right now, is it possible? It could be, but is it going to happen with the current social structures? I don't think so. We have enough in terms of resources in this country and other countries to go around in abundance. Like, we could actually make these things happen. You see people who are hoarding billions of dollars and that they'll never do anything with, for the most part. They don't need it, but it's just sitting there. Could we, could we make these things happen? Yes. The cat's going after the squirrels. Will we get to that point? I would hope so, but it's just one of those things where it's like, how? If people, we all have something we can give, and if we're not giving even a little bit, we're not going to get there. That cat really wants those squirrels. I don't know what language that is. It translated it automatically for you for some reason. Um, Turn the automatic translator off. critical mass must believe to achieve. Well, yeah, believing that it's possible, I think, is important. Manifest destiny. We definitely do have to actually attempt believing that it's possible and attempting the solution. Absolutely. 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 Critical mass must be obtained. Cyclical. Hermesis. Is that Greek? What language is this? I don't know because it translates. Oh, Turkish. It translates it automatically. Oh, Turkish. Salam. Language, brother. It's a mystical side effect of the algorithm. Perhaps the language is just organized noise. That's a way of looking at it. Humans search for meaning, but the universe only gives echoes. It is because language is so limited in terms of what we're able to convey that, in a sense, it really is just organized noise. And we do often search for more meaning that's there than that's there, and we often look for less meaning than that's really there. Because when I communicate, sometimes I want to communicate profound revelations and realizations that I'll never be able to fully communicate to another human being. They have to. The algorithm just monetizes the echo for ad revenue. Um, if I could get to that point where I'm monetizing the channel, like, please subscribe, because I want to get to that point where I can just have these conversations and share something into my life as a way of just life. And if I had, if I was making enough money doing this, I could eventually, the hope would be to teach part-time and to do retail part-time and maybe do odd jobs and volunteering, part-time. But, the level of hours that I have now, it's just crippling my body with the two jobs, which are almost full-time, both of them. And it's crippling my body, it's crippling my spirit, my mind. And if I could monetize something like this, it would be a massive relief on my mind, my spirit, my body. So, a simple subscribe or a like can often go like a long way to eventually getting to that goal, 100%. But I'll probably get going. I'll see you guys later.